So, hi everybody, welcome back. This is my guide on how to execute a good Ironman. This is part 4. Today we're talking about mass start swims, and it's about executing the start and how you want to start things to consider. Once the gun's gone and you're into it, you just got to get on with it and swim. And other than sighting, navigating, dealing with contact, you pretty much just got to get it done. And we'll talk about open water swimming in a supplemental. So, mass start races, not many. Obviously, one of the big ones is Kona, the Age Group World Champs. I think we'll talk about Kona separately. There's a whole lot of considerations for Kona. It's a different beastie altogether. What we might do for this is we'll use Taupo as an example. And these skills apply to any race of pretty much any distance if it's a deep water start and it's a mass start. Because most mass starts are, it's very rare that you're running on off the beach. Occasionally, and for that, the same rules as a rolling start apply about practicing diving into the water, etc. So mass start races. The reality is when you get to a race week and you're at the race venue, you want to recce the swim course a little bit, so that you know where the hell you're going. Don't be freaked out by how far it is. For example, Taupo, like that first haul's about 1,700 meters, 1,800 meters. I'm not quite sure. It's somewhere around there. It's a long way. Like when you're standing in the water before the start, it's like, oh crap, I've got to go down there and come back. So don't be freaked out about that. Like that first leg actually goes by in an instant. It's very, very fast just because of the heat of the moment. So go down and recce the swim. Would also advise go down early, probably about 2 days out. I'm a huge fan, a day out from the race, have a sleep in. Don't set an alarm, have a sleep in, get up when you wake up. Yes, it'll still be early, but have a quieter morning. Purely because the night before the race, especially if you're first time, you're probably going to get bugger all sleep. So it's more important to get a good night's sleep the day before sort of thing, so into that morning. Just a little tip there. That night's a good night to get. Just don't set an alarm. Just get up when you get up and try and get as much sleep there, just to bank a few hours. Because most people in the night before an Ironman don't get a great sleep. Anyway, digressing. But you want to get down to race start about the same time you're going to be swimming. And what you're trying to assess is what's the sunstrike going to be? What's the sunlight going to be? Are you going to be looking into the sun? Are you going to be like when you're sighting, or is it when you're breathing? You just want to have a plan for that. It might just mean that you need to wear dark goggles. You might get up and race day and it's cloudy and it didn't make a difference, but at least you're prepared. And it's all those little details. And try and line everything up. So you want to get down regardless of the race and see what the sun's doing, and see what your landmarks are, and that's important because we'll talk about that in a couple of seconds. So relative to sighting and Taupo, for example. So get down there so that when race day rocks around, you kind of everything's in your mind and you've got strategies for a lot of different scenarios. Right, so whereabouts are you going to start? Let's start with left or right hand side of the course. And there's a couple of factors. If the course is clockwise or anti-clockwise, that is an issue, and relative to how you breathe. Let's put it this way. Context of Taupo, it's a clockwise course, so it's right hand turns. So if you breathe to the right, it's awesome. You can see the turn cans all the way around the course. Nice and easy. Life simple. If you breathe to the left at Taupo, that's a bit difficult because they're on the opposite side. And also, if you breathe to the left and you want to, and the rule of thumb is if you breathe to the left, start to the right. If you breathe to the right, start to the left, so you can kind of see people. The problem at Taupo is that right-hand channel, that's prime real estate. Everybody wants to be there. So there's potential for a lot more contact, possibly better starting out a little bit out. And this is where you do your research. If you breathe to the left and you want to follow the shoreline in Taupo curves. It's not a straight line. So if you're following that, you might not necessarily be going the right way. So you're going to have to work it out. And that's what the job is before the race and also in training. In the build up to a race, everything that you do in training is designed to get you ready for the race. So for example, if you know that you breathe to the left and it's an anti-clockwise course, you might want to practice sighting a little bit more and practice your open water skills a little bit more so that you can swim a straight line in water and occasionally breathe to the other side, or breathe a little bit more breathe a little bit more forward. Just so you're aware of it, I've done a race where I breathe to the right, it's been anti-clockwise. And also like Challenge Wanaka, when it used to be an iron distance race, the last leg of that used to be straight into the sun. You couldn't see a thing. You'd look up and it would just be like bright sunlight. The fortunate thing about that race is the way the mountains were, there was a sort of a ridgeline where it dropped down, and you could actually use that as a sight line, and it would get you pretty close. Again, if you were looking at the beach, the lake curved. Every race is going to present different challenges, so you need to have thought about them and be prepared for them. Okay, so we've established where you're going to start. As Taupo, right-hand side, prime real estate, everybody's going to be there. You might want to start out a little bit further. Bear in mind, by doing that, you're possibly going to swim a bit further distance, but it might still be faster. It might cost you half a minute in time, but you've got clear water versus being in a bunch of people and getting tangled up and swimming slow and having people swim over the top of you and getting kicked and all of that. That might actually cost you more time. So just be aware. Sometimes you've got to make a compromise. And ultimately, it comes back to the whole thing. You're trying to get through the swim, get to the end, and not be train wrecked. And it costs a lot of physical and mental energy when you're swimming in a bunch of people. You know what I mean? You're just getting snarled up. You're trying to have to navigate around people, and it costs time. Just left or right, make the call, and be a bit flexible. Like watch the pro start. If you can see opportunity to see the pro start, and Taupo, you don't really get current, but some races, when the pros go, just watch and just see if there's a current left or right, and be prepared to change your position. I did at a race, half Ironman in Hawaii. I was standing beside John Newson, and we watched the pro start, and man, there was left-right drift, and it was crazy. And we were like, oh crap, we popped out the back, hauled down to the left-hand end of the course and started there, so that when the gun went, we got pushed all the way down. And we ended up exactly where we needed to be at the turn camp. And that was about paying attention, being flexible, and we were a bit cheeky when we pushed our way through to the front at the last minute, because this was all happening 1 to 2 minutes before the race start. But it was better to do that than swim over the top of people. But it probably, just by doing that, when we got down to the far end, it probably saved us half a minute, because if we'd started where we had been, we would have been pushed down and had to swim back up. Always be paying attention. Always be a little bit flexible in your plan. Don't have I'm starting here, this is my plan. Have what's going on here? Do I need to be here? Always question. Okay, so whereabouts, front or back, that's quite simple. If you're front of the pack swimmer, get to the front. If you're back of the pack, get to the back. Middle. But ask, if you're floating, say you're the 110 swimmer, and you're floating in the water and you're talking to everybody, just ask, hey guys, girls, what are you planning on swimming? And if they're saying 1 hour and you're planning on swimming 110, you go, oh, this is a bit hot for me, I might go back a bit. Because if you try and start with them, and there'll be people they're just going way fast, and they just might be people behind you going over the top. But by the same token, don't sell yourself short. So if you're sitting there and asking people and they're all saying 120 and you're planning on swimming 110, I need to go forward a bit, and just sneak your way forward and say, hey, what, and ask people as you're working your way through, can I go forward? I'm still a bit faster than that, you know what I mean? And just be mindful. But if you're planning on swimming 110, they're all saying 110, it's like, cool, can I hang with you? You people, that'd be awesome. They might tow you, because you're all going the same speed. It's a lot easier, and they might tow your sorry ass around the swim, and you'll be expending less energy, and that's a good thing. But it is okay to ask. I've done it in races. Ironman Australia was notable, and a couple of guys, I was trying to hold my space at the front, and these two guys were getting a little bolshy, and I was a bit arrogant, but it was a case of, I asked them, and they're planning on swimming an hour to an hour 2, and I'm planning on swimming 55 minutes. I said, look guys, I'm going a bit faster. Do you mind? And they were getting a bit bolshy. I said, well, cool, but understand, if you do this and continue this, when the gun goes, you'll be the first 2 people I come over the top of on the way to that 55-minute swim. But I'm happy to tow you or give you a free ride on my feet if you start beside me. But if you're going to start in front of faster swimmers, think about it, some people, it's, I don't want to swim over the top of people. I just want a nice, easy swim. But by the same token, if you want to sit on my feet, I'm happy to tow you. But again, if I asked them and they said they were going to plan on swimming 50 minutes, I'd be going, rightio, chaps, I'll be behind you. I'm going to sit on your feet. It goes both ways. But it's okay to ask. But if somebody is faster, you go, oh, I might just get behind. Because the reality is, if you get behind a fast swimmer, a couple of things. I've done it before in a race. A guy, Andrew Black, who is retired from sport, he is a fish. I was standing directly behind him. And not because I wanted to go with him, but I just knew, like when the gun went, he went off, and I was behind him. I got a tow for it was like 10 meters. I wasn't on there for long. But as the echelon, I was in the middle, and I had this patch of perfect clear water to swim in. It was fantastic, and that was again just being attentive, having a look around. I knew that guy was a good swimmer. I knew he was better than I was. Get behind, get a free ride, and get some clear space rather than try and fire at the fringes. It's about being smart. So ask. The other thing to think about is how you're going to start in the water. You can just sit there waiting when the gun goes, go. Or if and this is more for the front of the pack and the faster swimmers, if you can be horizontal in the water. It's easier in a wetsuit swim than a non-wetsuit swim because you've got a wetsuit. It helps you float. So you practice sculling. A couple of things. What that means is that when the gun goes, you're actually just going up to speed as opposed to having to get your hips up onto the water and get up to speed. So it's a little bit faster, and it's measurable, probably not, but it might be that microsecond that you probably get your arms. It might get you just that half a body length in front of the people beside you, so you've got clear room for your arms to swim. The other thing is that it creates some space because your feet are dangling out behind you, and it kind of pushes the people behind you. So it means that it probably gives you a little bit of space, and you're less likely to have somebody hitting your toes in the first couple of strokes because you're getting up to speed faster. Try it at the pool. Between the flags at your local pool, just go out and maybe use the clock every top and so on. Be flexible on your timing, and just practice race start. Practice starting vertical in the water, swim hard to the flags, cruise to the wall, float back out, do half a dozen, and then do half a dozen sculling, floating in the water, and you can actually just watch the clock. Which is, and that's the thing at a race. You might be watching the people in the line. So if there's kind of a false start and everybody's going, go. You're paying attention. You're not, if you don't hear the gun, the hooter, whatever, and the crowd goes, you're ready to go anyway. So try it, you know what I mean? See how you go. It will help. And then the next thing to think about is that first part of the swim. Now, if you're a first timer, practice and training, do it in the race. All you do is build up to speed, treat it as a warm-up. It's no point in training doing massive warm-ups. When you're going to turn up to a race, you're going to spend, a couple of minutes floating in the water, and then you're going to go from cold turkey. So practice short warm-up swims, but also practice just building into your day. If you're more of a front of the pack swimmer, you might want to practice going out pretty decent pace and then settling. And you would replicate that in training. And we'll talk about that in some of the supplementals. We'll do swim trainings, the big swim, and things to think about so that you're training specifically and being adapted to the way that you're going to race. Front of the pack athletes might go out pretty decent for the first 1 to 500 meters and then settle down. But that's a controlled effort. But you need to practice that so that when you implement it in a race, you know how to do it as opposed to going crazy and exploding 500 meters into the race. So there's some considerations for the start. So next episode, we're going to talk about putting it all together, and we'll talk about the end of the swim, and also swim exit, even if you're doing like a 2-lap swim and had to run along the beach. We'll talk a bit about that. So that's enough from me for this episode. Hope some of that's been helpful. But the key thing is just be a little bit flexible, and probably secondly, just don't be a dick, and try and play nice. Peace out from me. See you later. Bye bye.